Thank you so much. I am an actor. If you do not applaud, I will start to wilt, so I appreciate that. My name is Frankie Alicia Ford. My pronouns are he, him. Welcome to Diversionary Theater. Before we get started, a few things. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge that all of us are currently sitting on the land of the Ipai Chipai, which is also known as the Kumeyaay Nation. We also acknowledge the buckets of privilege we have to be able to do the work we do on the land we do it on, and are committed to using that privilege to really support the holistic queer experience. Queer people! For a more in-depth look at our land acknowledgement, as well as all of the work we are doing to make sure that this institution remains available to everyone in our community, not just the folks who have historically had access, check out our website. I'm very proud of all of our anti-racism work, and I hope you partner with us on all of that, and making sure that that's front and foremost in our minds. I also want to, a few logistics before we get going. If you have a phone, turn that off, put it on airplane mode, quiet it down. It'll interfere with all of the things, so we appreciate your assistance with that. If for whatever reason you need to leave the space, there are 2 exits on either side of the space. The show is only about an hour, hour 5, so we ask that we stay seated. If you have a bathroom emergency, then by all means, please don't pee in your chair, but I think you can probably make it through. When you were coming inside, you probably noticed our beautiful Clark Cabaret downstairs. That cabaret space is brand new to Diversionary. That space is celebrating her 1-year birthday. Having a big Halloween party to celebrate, so if you're not doing anything on the 30th and want to get into some queer, spooky shenanigans, come check us out. But otherwise, that space is open 6 nights a week with a pretty wild, eclectic assortment of entertainment for you to engage with, right? Everything from live music. Every Wednesday, we have an incredible queer poetry night coming up this Monday. Drag shows, burlesque, everything you could possibly imagine. All of the information for those events is on our website, so go check that out. In this space, you are currently sitting in our main stage. We have a really exciting season about to come up, season 37, which is themed We Are Family. A really incredible, we have an incredible slate of productions that are going to blow you away. So I hope you come back and check us out. The first one, The Mystery of Irma Vep. Charles Ludlam. Is an incredible play, 2-hander, very funny, very quick, very lovely. That goes into previews December 1st and runs through the month, so I hope you come back and check that out. Right now, you are here for the Stonewall Salon. The Stonewall Salon is an incredible program that was created by Skylar Sullivan, who's our Director of Education and Outreach. And this program is aimed at queer elders and allied elders and gives us a space for them to tell their story. We have been working with this incredible ensemble for about 6 weeks, meeting every Monday and Wednesday from 10 to 12, creating all of the magic that you're about to participate in. If you're interested in supporting or in joining us for our next ensemble, come talk to me afterwards. Also information on that online. This program is fully free to the public, to our participants, to all of y'all, and we appreciate your support in making all of that happen. Other things to note. We have a lot of really exciting work happening in our education department. We have something called our Silver Squad, which are one-off workshops for folks. We have a open mic prep Silver Squad coming up in later in October. I will be leading a storytelling workshop later in November. Rita Mooney, who you are about to experience all of her majesty, is also leading one later in December. So check out our website and come join us, come play with us, come make some magic with us. We want to, before we get started, really special shout out to the California Arts Council and to the James Francis Fund for all of their support in making sure that it remains accessible and free to everyone. So shout out to those homies. Otherwise, enough of me. A nice loud round of applause for the incredible, the talented, this year's ensemble of our Stonewall Salon.
Tonight you're going to hear about some heroes and sheroes, some that you haven't heard of before, all who at great sacrifice, either personally or otherwise, have helped make our lives richer and better, and encourage us to follow in their footsteps or make some of our own. Well, it was a blessed Sunday back in 1969. A couple of guys with a longing share a little bit of bread and wine. They went to the bars and went to the parks and gathered up a crowd. And they brought them home and taught them how to worship out loud. Before too long, those dozen souls became a congregation, spread God's word and message to the queers across the nation. Beyond languages and overseas, in countries near and far, that no matter what you've been told, God loves you as you are. And God said, come on down, we don't care what you're wearing. Take still little burning socks that are tearing. I'm here to remind you, you belong to me. Thank you, Mr. Perry. Happy birthday, MCC.
Lord, this morning, would you say amen? Turn to the person just where you're at and say, God bless you, you're in the right place this morning. Amen.
When I first found out that the theme for this year's Stonewall Salon was going to be our LGBT heroes, the first person that came to my mind was Reverend Troy Perry. He's the founder of the Universal Fellowship of Metropolitan Community Churches and probably the most distinguished gay and lesbian and leader in the country. Troy was born in 1940 in Tallahassee, Florida, in the Deep South. He's the oldest of 5 boys. He was raised in the Baptist and Pentecostal communities. And Troy says he doesn't remember a time when religion didn't excite him. Religion and boys. Well, Troy's story. Okay. So. Blank. When Troy was 20, by the time, I know what I was going to say. So he was so filled with the Spirit that by the time he was 13, he was beginning to preach. What were we doing at 13? I was smoking cigarettes and accompanying my next door neighbor's little scooter. I was being covered by my neighbor, who is Candy Duckworth. And we had some religious sleepovers of our own. That should have been my first clue. But no. By the time Troy was 20, he was married, he had his congregations of his own, and he had 2 sons. By the time he was 23, he was excommunicated from those congregations for his homosexual behavior. His family also left. When I first came out, finally, in the 1980s, early 1980s, I went to Metropolitan Community Church because one of my girlfriends took me there. So she's been gone for decades, but I stayed on as one of the music ministers. The first time I heard Troy Perry preach in his Pentecostal voice, big booming thing, he scared the shit out of me. He started throwing snakes all over the place, and see, I was raised a Christian Zionist in the Catholic country of Mexico. We whisper. Turns out later I found out that he's terrified of snakes. Well, only 4 kinds of snakes. Big snakes, small snakes, live snakes particularly, and dead snakes. And he learned early on to start questioning the scriptures that were potentially dangerous, either physically or emotionally. In the mid-60s, Troy, after divorcing, did a stint in the U.S. Army where he actually ran into some real homosexuals and found out that homosexuality was actually pretty normal. And he moved to Los Angeles where he got into the bar scene and partied quite a while and fell deeply, deeply in love with his very first real boyfriend who left him. In his despair, he tried to commit suicide by slitting his wrists. Luckily, his roommate found him, took him to the hospital where he was bandaged up and bitch slapped by a nurse who said, "Troy Perry, you have work to do. Now you get to it." In 1967, his best friend was arrested and beaten in jail because he was Latino and homosexual in one of the bar raids that were very common back then. And he said to Troy, "Why, this isn't fair. Why is it that God hates us? God hates queers. God hates homosexuals. Why can't we have a church of our own where we don't have to go through this?" So Troy had a little come to Jesus meeting with God. And he ended up saying, "I'm going to think about this. I need to get this back into my life." In 1967, he went into prayer, and God said to him, he says, "God, the time is now. Troy, the time is now for you to do this. I've been training you your whole life for a time such as this. So the time is right now." So on October 6, 1968, happy birthday MCC, right? Troy had the first of many, many, many Metropolitan Community Church services at his own home with 12 individuals, and what was to become the first service. We now have services, we have churches, Metropolitan Community Churches in 37 different countries, and every single one of the states of the United States.
Yes.
We minister today, particularly minister to the gay and lesbian communities and other outcasts that have been excommunicated from their families, or from their churches, or just for being other. In spite of 21 arson attempts and a few successes, and murders of congregants, Metropolitan Community Church continues to raise from the ashes individuals who minister and minister they do. Troy Perry in the past 50 years, 60 years has been either a leader or a participant in every single LGBT or human rights struggle that there has been. He's sat in, he's sat out, he's protested, he's gone on a hunger strike, been arrested himself, met with presidents, spoken at rallies, met with church leaders from all over the world, and he just continues to this day, even though he's retired in Los Angeles, to fight for our struggles, for human dignity and for social justice everywhere. Thank you, Mr. Perry.
Anybody closest could do it.
Jesus, who is God in the flesh. Jesus, when he died, they took him off the cross and they put him in the grave. And oh my God, 3 days later, he went first class. Amen. They thought they had him, but he got away. Amen. On that day of resurrection, amen, Jesus rose from the dead. I preached and I've said down in community for 38 years, whatever we do, we've got to go first class. God calls us to go first class. No other way except first class.
The Church of Jesus Christ can never be the same again.
Today, the Episcopal Church has an openly gay bishop.
Come visit us sometime.
Hello, I'm Diane. And my hero is Sebastian Lifshitz. Just received 2022 award from Queer Lion Career Achievement. Casa Susana, his most recent documentary, honors the hidden and invisible transgender men and cross-dressing men and transgender women from the 1960s and 50s. Casa Susana is a freedom summer camp that allowed them to play. So, New York in the 50s and 60s passed many laws restricting the freedoms of anybody who is different. And often, these arrests were made on evenings out of the town. So, you, here, now, you know the law. 1, 2, 3 items of men's clothing. I need to see it now.
Oh.
No, 0. Off to jail we go.
The style of Casa Susana wasn't vampy or very sexy. They were dressing up as middle-class women that would be putting on their Sunday best and their finery. And it wasn't like they wanted to be a Betty Page or something like that. They wanted to be accepted person of the female persuasion in society. And the transformation for most of them wasn't an easy thing to accomplish. It took hours to get to the point where they were satisfied with their look.
Sebastian Lifshitz spent a decade doing research for this documentary. And it started with a cardboard box of Casa Susana photos from a flea market. Marie Tonell, who owned the property in the Catskills and a wake shop in Manhattan. Susana, her husband, she would drive him every weekend in the summer out to the property for get-togethers. Now, Susana wrote a column for cross-dressing men and transgender women in a magazine called Transvestia. So, after 50 years, Catherine, age 82, and Diana Mary, age 86, were the only guests still left alive to be interviewed. So Marie Tonell's grandson, Gregory, recalls that he loved spending every summer at the Freedom Camp. And then Betsy Walheim, who was the daughter of a famous sci-fi author, shares her experience.
I suddenly realized that the church architect in California that I was so fond of, it was so fun, he was one of the cross-dressers. People I had stayed with in Ireland, he was a cross-dresser. Everybody that my parents were most close to was in the transvestite scene. I suddenly realized why I went to summer camp for 2 months every single year, starting when I was 7, 2 entire months away. So my father could go up to Casa Susana and dress. My mother drove him there and stayed with him because he couldn't drive. A lot of women were up there too, the wives, and I think they hung out together. But my mother drove him to Casa Susana every weekend of the summer. And I know that because that's why I went to summer camp for 8 years.
So, as it ends, the International Film Festival ends for 2022. Sebastian Lifshitz gets a Career Achievement Award. So keep an eye out for Casa Susana to be released worldwide.
All right.
Hi everyone, my name is Joe. Thanks for coming out, or thanks for coming out. Today I'm honoring two colorful heroes who fought against oppression and homophobia, Quentin Crisp and Dominic Bash. Growing up in the 50s, my childhood heroes were the brave policemen, the firemen, and the servicemen, strong masculine figures who helped to keep us safe. Homosexuality was taboo, and effeminate men were battered, bruised, or worse. Many of us hid under the closet, or hid under the radar, and tried to pass it straight, but not everyone. Quentin Crisp became widely known following the 1975 film based on his autobiography, The Naked Civil Servant. In the 1930s, he adopted a flamboyant, theatrical style destined to attract negative attention in a highly conservative and homophobic England.
If it causes no stir, it covers no ground. The goal is to outlive the stir and go on living.
He cross-dressed, wore makeup and nail polish, and acted intensely effeminate in public.
I was what others called a dead giveaway.
True. Although his critics felt he didn't really do any good for the cause, it's evident that he supported freedom of sexuality and gender.
The very purpose of existence is to reconcile the glowing things we hold about ourselves with the appalling things other people think about us.
Crisp helped pave the way for those who would follow in his footsteps.
Someone had to make a statement so others along the way could make a further statement.
Which brings me to my dear friend Dominic Bash. No, just feeling that for a moment. Pardon me, folks. Like Crisp, Dominic was unapologetic about his gayness. I remember being drawn to him and afraid of him at the same time. Once he showed up for a movie date wearing black fishnet stockings and sparkling earrings. I was dressed in my usual preppy outfit, and he looks me up and down and says,
"Girlfriend, you look like you just stepped out of a freaking JCPenney catalog."
"Bitch, you don't have to worry about me showing up in the same dress you're wearing." His sharp tongue and outrageous outfits were not his only weapons. Dominic fought for inclusion within the Catholic Church. I was by his side when he presented Cardinal Bevilacqua with a pride flag while wearing this big button that said, "I'm a gay Christian."
It's about celebrating life, not hiding in a closet. I've been out so long I wouldn't know how to get back in.
Lovingly known as Madominic, Our Lady of Act Up, he bravely served the gay community as an AIDS activist.
A lot of my friends have died. I used to keep their pictures on my mirror, but I had to take them down. I could no longer see myself. Giving back helped me to feel better. When you give, you truly do receive.
Dominic often asked us,
"What are you doing for your gay brothers and sisters?"
In the early 90s, I was living in a closet within a closet. I was hiding being gay and hiding being HIV positive. Dominic's question inspired me to take action at work. I asked my conservative employers to add sexual orientation to their non-discrimination policy. They responded, "We don't have any homosexuals working in this company. We'll need a letter." Here's my first draft. "Dear sir, I sure do love men." Once employment protection was in place, we formed the company's first AIDS walk team. Straight and gay employees walked side by side, and we raised a whopping $30,000 for Philadelphia's AIDS organizations.
Proud of our community. We know how to love and how to care. I wouldn't want to be anything but gay. That's how I know I'm doing something right. I wouldn't want to be anything but gay.
Girl. Many of the things that our heroes fought for wouldn't happen in their lifetime. Nonetheless, they remained committed to the cause.
It is not the simple statement of facts that ushers in freedom. It is the constant repetition of them that has this liberating effect. Tolerance is a result not of enlightenment, but of boredom.
Their legacies live on in advancements in HIV treatment, marriage equality, and a more inclusive community. Heroes come in all colors of the rainbow. They're not limited to the socially constructed identities we learned as children. Look around. Our future heroes may be here today. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tara. I was first introduced to Catherine Lee Bates by a National Geographic article highlighting her life and her most famous poem, America the Beautiful. Documenting her lesbianism, they also acknowledge her numerous writings, books, and widely published articles. She lived from 1859 to 1929. As a gay woman, I've experienced sexism and prejudice, as did Catherine, and we both witnessed extreme poverty and the misery that it brings. While in the Peace Corps, I worked with starving and impoverished children and their families. I share Catherine's concerns for the environment and her wanderlust. I am a faculty member at Wellesley, love to travel, and have been all over the world. I rode a camel in Damascus and even hiked the Alps. In 1890, I studied at Oxford and returned to Wellesley to complete a master's degree. While at Oxford, I wrote to my partner of 30 plus years, Catherine Coleman, also a professor at Wellesley. Although I destroyed most of those letters, one survived, attesting to our affections for one another. In the summer of 1893, we left Boston by train for Colorado Springs. After our teaching assignment ended, we decided to summit Pikes Peak, 14,000 feet high. We boarded a horse-drawn wagon. And then halfway up, had to ride mules. And then walk the last part of the way. Oh, the joy of that view. Oh. I wrote America the Beautiful, inspired by all that I had seen on this trip and my desire for an all-inclusive, egalitarian American community. Initially, I was surprised by my poem's success, put to music in 1910, but clearly feel its enduring hold is due to the fact that Americans are in their hearts idealists with a fundamental faith in human brotherhood. Now that I've shared a little about Catherine with you, I'd like to introduce you to another mentor of mine, Mary Oliver. Mary was a Pulitzer Prize winner and National Book Award winning poet and a prolific writer who died in 2019 at the age of 83. We both survived childhood abuse and parental neglect, and I found refuge on horseback in the countryside surrounding our ranch. Mary wandered the woods of her rural Ohio home. I resonate with her dear appreciation of nature and truly appreciate her deep insight. Mary lived for over 40 years in Provincetown with the love of her life, photographer Molly Malone Cook. These are selections from 2 of her poems. I encourage you to read them in their entirety. At the River Clarion. I don't know who God is exactly, but I'll tell you this. I was sitting in the river named Clarion on a water-splashed stone, and all the afternoon I listened to the voices of the river talking. Whenever the water hit the stone, it had something to say, and the water itself, and even the mosses trailing under the water. And slowly, very slowly, it became clear to me what they were saying. I'd been to the river before, a few times. Don't blame the river that nothing happened quickly. You don't hear such voices in an hour or a day, and you don't hear them at all if selfhood has stuffed your ears. And it's difficult to hear anything anyway through all the traffic and ambition. If God exists, He's the forest, He's the desert. He's the many desperate hands cleaning and preparing their weapons. He's the ice caps that are dying. And if this is true, isn't this something very important? Because every one of us, potentially, if God exists, excuse me, so sometimes the river murmurs, sometimes it raves. And still pressed deep into my mind, the river comes touching me, passing by on its long journey, its pale, infallible voice singing. And finally, Mary asks in her poem, The Summer Day, tell me, what is it that do you wish to do with your one wild and precious life? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dave. There's probably not a lot I can tell you about Elton John that you don't already know. He's sold 300 million records worldwide. His 1997 version of Candle in the Wind, about Princess Diana, was the best-selling single of all time worldwide, 33 million copies sold. The Elton John AIDS Foundation has raised over 600 million for AIDS-related charities. Elton, not counting Christmas hits, has the longest span of top 10 hits in chart history, beginning in 1970 with Your Song and concluding this year with 2 top 10 hits, Cold Heart with Dua Lipa and Hold Me Closer with Britney Spears. And finally, on the Billboard Hot 100, which is America's pop chart, Elton is ranked as the 4th most successful artist of all time. Only Madonna, the Beatles, and Drake have had more success in that chart. So, what does Elton mean to me personally? In 1975, for my 12th birthday, I got his Greatest Hits LP. Elton was everywhere that year. And in every picture, he had a different outrageous outfit and a different pair of audacious sunglasses. He even showed up in the Who's film version of their rock opera Tommy as the Pinball Wizard. Now, believe it or not, nobody really knew for certain in '75 if Elton was actually queer. I had a few doubts about my own queerness at that age, but nobody doubted that Elton has the flair to pull off the flamboyance. So like I said, there's not much I can tell you about Elton. Well, I had 3 queer role models when I was growing up. David Bowie, Liberace, and Elton. And none of them were out of the closet at that time. So like I said, there's not much I can tell you about him, but I can try to show you how much his music and his image have meant to me over the years. In 1970, Elton wrote Border Song with his longtime collaborator, Bernie Taupin. And I believe that 52 years later, we still need to hear its beautiful anti-bigotry message of peace and brotherly love. been removed. I have seen the specter, he has been here too. Distant cousin from down the line, random people who ain't my kind. Holy Moses, I have been removed. Holy Moses, I have been deceived. Now the wind has changed direction and I'll have to leave. Won't you please excuse my frankness, but it's not my cup of tea. Holy Moses, I've been deceived. I'm going back to the border where my affairs being abused. I can't drink any more bad water and poison from my head down to my shoes. Holy Moses, I have been deceived. Holy Moses, let us live in peace. Let us strive to find a way to make all hatred cease. There's a man over there. What's its color? I don't care. He's my brother. Let us live in peace. Oh, he's my brother. Let us live in peace. Oh, he's my brother. Let us live in peace.
Welcome back to Georgine in the Morning. That's me. Diego's favorite lady to wake up with. Hello again. The Diversionary Theater is doing Stonewall Salon this weekend. It's about honoring heroes. My friend Rita is here and in it, and to talk about her piece. Let's hear it for Rita!
Won't you all join me in taking a nice, comfortable breath together? Oh, there's my Shima, how beautiful. Oh, this is her sacred land. Maybe you can feel the sunlight coming through those sacred oak trees.
It's so lovely there. It gives the flavor of what your piece is about.
Yes, my hero is Native American storyteller and ceremonialist Maria Yaceboro. She's my Shima. That's a mother figure in her culture. And I know that somewhere we're gonna see she and her wife Linda, who are both wonderful people. Maria has spent, oh, there they are. Okay, great. There's Maria on the right and Linda on the left. Maria has spent half a century teaching ancient ways to help people heal wounds and navigate life. She's with the Tilshdians, which is a snake clan.
How interesting. How did your relationship with her begin?
I went through a period of depression and anxiety when my children were young, and I found Maria, and you know what? I was living in two roles. I was being a good wife, a capable mother, a competent employee, and I lost my sense of self. I lost my spark. But by attending Maria's Moon Lodge, which is a talking circle for women, I felt heard and loved and supported. I also started connecting with the land and animals and plants. Yes, I do hug trees. And that came in very handy during the worst part of COVID. And we love rocks. Excuse me, I brought you a rock. You're welcome. And you get a rock. And you get a rock. And you get a rock. Everyone in the studio audience gets a rock. There's one. There's one under your seat. You can pick it up on your way out.
Rock on.
Rock on.
It's good that you found the right tools to help yourself through a tough time in your life.
Yes. As I was thinking about Maria as my hero, I thought about her being a Native American lesbian. She and Linda have always had a sense of comfort and pride. She shared with me that she was brought up a two-spirit, in her language, a Nadle. And in her culture, she was brought up to fall in love with the essence, not the package. Yeah, as I learned more about the Native Americans and what happened to the two-spirit, I felt like I had to include that in my piece.
And didn't you have some concern about cultural appropriation?
Yes.
Sharing this information?
I did, and I spoke with Maria, and she calls it cultural appreciation and education. Yeah, I want people to know this history because it is a lost history, though a 1970s Western Little Big Man does a decent portrayal of the two-spirit. We all know too well the stigma and bullying the LGBTQIA community can experience. It's as if there's something perverse or unnatural. That's not true. It is natural. People have been misled by centuries of Christian propaganda. The two-spirit were esteemed and revered members of their tribes prior to colonization. I'm not saying it's okay to call non-natives two-spirit, but certainly we have a lot to learn from them.
We're going to need to know more context about two spirits.
I'm going to tell you from over here. There's my light. You know how we acknowledge the Kumeyaay, whose lands we are on, they've been here 10,000 years.
Yes.
500 years ago, the despicable doctrine of discovery gave Christian Europeans the right to discover new lands, even if already inhabited. It gave explorers carte blanche to dispossess non-Christians of their lands, their cultures, and their lives. Ugh. All over the world. With God on their side, they could do anything. Later in the U.S. came Manifest Destiny. Two-spirit is a recent term. Non-natives called them Berdashes, and natives considered them third, fourth, and other genders. Each tribe, and there are over 500 in the United States, has its own culture and language, so there's many descriptions and terms. I brought a couple of images to share, historical images. I'm going to focus on sharing about Maria and the Nadle. Maria is one of the 15% indigenous, brought up with the old traditions. She was watched as a child to see what her interests were. She had masculine energy into tracking, hunting, horses. When she reached puberty, she got to choose how she shows up in the world, and her masculine choice was embraced. There's more, but wait, there's more. Thank you. The Nadle they're esteemed and have such roles as medicine people and advisors because they can see both sides, masculine and feminine. And they can often be foster parents for orphan children.
Why are we just hearing about two spirits now?
With colonization, they were murdered or beaten and indoctrinated into Christianity on the reservation. The Two-Spirit were forgotten by their own tribes and removed from existence by whitewashed history. Maria even has gay Sioux cousins who were ostracized by their families. But there's hope. Native Americans are repossessing their old ways, and they are honoring the Two-Spirit again.
It is a shameful history. I'm glad your Shema was raised traditionally, and that Two-Spirit is recognized by more tribes now. Do you have resources for folks who are interested to learn more?
Yes, right here, and in the programs.
Thank you to my guest, Rita. We'll be right back.
I may be dead, but I can still look good. I was born Oscar Fingal McFlaherty Wills Wilde. I'll let that sink in. I was a poet, a playwright, and I wrote a novel, The Picture of Dorian Gray. Maybe some of you have read it. I also happen to be born in the Victorian age, where a segment of society thought it would be okay to regulate morality for everyone, whether they liked it or not. I know none of you can know what that's like. You cannot tell your heart who to love or not to love. It's like trying to tell a river to change its course. In 1895, I happened to be in love with Lord Alfred Douglas, who happened to be the son of the Marquess of Queensberry. Needless to say, the Marquess wasn't too thrilled about that. And he started to harass me and my friends, and so I thought it would be a good idea to take the Marquess to court for libel. Now, my friends warned me I should not do this. And in the course of the first trial, yes, I had more than one, the libel, due to uncovered facts, the libel charges were dropped, and I was arrested for gross indecency. In my second trial, I used my wit, charm, and humor, and I was able to get a hung jury, and so I was set free. My friends warned me to go to France. Again, I did not listen to my friends. And in the third trial, I was found guilty for gross indecency for homosexual acts, and I was sentenced to the maximum at that time, 2 years hard labor. Now, as you can guess, I really wasn't built for prison. I collapsed a lot due to exhaustion and malnutrition. One time I was hitting the head so hard it ruptured my right eardrum. I spent 2 months in the infirmary. I never healed from my wounds. In 1897, I was released from prison. I moved to France and never returned to England again. just getting started. I never did recover from my stay in prison and lost my creativity, and I was often asked, knowing what happened, would I have done it again? And I can only say, be yourself, everyone else is taken. My name is Al Floyd. I'm not gay, but I know what it feels like to be ridiculed and hated by society. I feel that my 2 tours in Vietnam are equal to Oscar's 2 years of hard labor. When I returned from Vietnam the first time, we were told to get out of uniform and put on our civilian clothes because of the protesters at the gate. And as we left the gate, they called us names, they threw objects at us, and they spit on us. But the initial reaction wasn't anything like followed. Oh, and by the way, I was the perfect poster child for a Vietnam vet. I was an addict, I'd become addicted to opium, and I had PTSD even though I didn't know I had it at the time. But every day after, the whole time I was here after that first initial greeting, I experienced anger, annoyance, or at best apathy. My friends didn't even want to acknowledge that it had gone to a war. I used to tell myself, in fact for the past 50 years I've been telling myself and others I went back for my second tour because of the dope. But when I look back now, I honestly didn't like the way I was being treated. And right now I can't tell you which one was the greater motive to get back, to get away, even if I had to die again. And the third reason, our president was a dick, literally and figuratively. In 1998, I heard applause the first time for being a Vietnam veteran 25 years after I returned. In 2017, Oscar received a pardon from the Alan Turing Law, and it's been 122 years since his death. And right now, a segment of society is still trying to dictate morality for all of us. When is this going to stop? Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Doug Henderson, and I'm here to introduce you to Stephen Sondheim, musical writer, theater composer, and one of our gay ancestors. Stephen Sondheim was born March 22nd, 1930 in New York City to wealthy parents. I was born March 22nd, 1960 in San Diego, California to middle-class parents. Stephen said he experienced his mother as being emotionally abusive after his parents divorced. I unfortunately experienced the same. What is wrong with you? Your head is always in the clouds. In 1976, I fell in love with musical theater in high school, and Sondheim was all the rage. Then in 1978, I was in a dinner theater production of A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, and I got to play Hero, and I got to sing some of his glorious music. I then went on to study theater at Gospel State College in New Jersey, and while there, I saw Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street on Broadway, and oh my God, what a production. Later on, as a young actor living in New York City, I saw Sunday in the Park with George, and then in 1987, Into the Woods and the song Children Will Listen. This song is as important to me today as it was so long ago because it speaks to the importance of listening to what our children have to say. Careful the things you say, children will listen. Careful the things you do, children will see and learn. Children may not obey, but children will listen. Children will look to you for which way to turn, to learn what to be. Careful before you say, listen to me. Children will listen. In 1993, I was diagnosed with AIDS, and I thought my life in performing was over. But then I found the musical Company and the song Being Alive, and that has become a song of living and thriving for me. Somebody crowd me with love. Somebody force me to care. Somebody let me come through. I'll always be there, as frightened as you, to help us survive. Being alive. Being alive. Being alive. Stephen Sondheim died November 26, 2021 in the arms of his partner, Jeff Romley. He was 91 years old. I have been living and thriving and performing for over 3 decades now. And I am so grateful for this life I have today. Thank you so much for letting me share a little bit of Stephen Sondheim with you.
Hi, I'm Georgine, and my story today is about Margaret Cho, her life, and how her story reverberates in my heart. I'm speaking to you today from the Mic Drop Cafe on Claremont Mesa Boulevard, the last place that she appeared in San Diego. I've read her book. It's called I'm the One That I Want. In her book, she tells the story of how her father called her fat, and the rest of her family did as well. When she went to school, she was bullied and called names. She dropped out of high school when she was 16. I was a fat baby and child as well. But I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, where it was a good thing to have cheeks that your grandmas and aunties could pinch. And it was proof that my family had enough income to feed me. Margaret's father was deported when she was 3 days old, deported to Korea. She was sent to Korea to live, and she lived there for 3 years with her aunt, and then she returned to the United States. My father left my family when I was 4, and he died when I was 8. Margaret learned early on that if she smiled, she got candy. And she also learned when she made people laugh, she got approval. She lived in San Francisco, and she was friends with many homosexual men, and she felt safe and loved, and she kept that feeling for the rest of her life. Margaret went on to become a successful stand-up comedian. She appeared all over the United States and all over the rest of the world. She did stand-up, and she talked about her family. I too have done stand-up, and I too can talk about my family. My mother was the exciting grandma. Her name was Mama, may she rest in peace. When she came to visit, all was excitement. I'll tell you a story about one visit. I had painted the kitchen white. I came home from work. My 3 kids were there, Mama was there, and there was mustard on the ceiling. To this day, my kids haven't told me how the mustard got on the ceiling. The other thing that happened was, she had a pan of Jiffy Pop popcorn. And my kids told her to cut a slit in the top. Now I knew what would happen. She didn't care. She cut a slit in the top. So she put the pan on the stove, and it heated up, and the popcorn heated up, and exploded all over the kitchen. To this day, my kids won't tell me how the mustard got on the ceiling. Margaret got a sitcom, the first Asian American sitcom on ABC on television, 1994, 1995. She tells the story in her book. She was told that the premiere was in 3 weeks and she had to lose weight, be called fat again. She dieted so severely that she ended up in the hospital. I can relate because I've dealt with overweight all my life. Margaret was a social activist. She represented many causes and did much humanitarian efforts. She always talked about issues in her stand-up. She won many awards for her humanitarian efforts, and soon you're going to see a screen that tells you all the awards that she won. There we go. All these awards while she was making the audiences scream with laughter over her stand-up routines. I can relate in a little way. In the 1980s, people who were HIV positive couldn't get in to see a lawyer. They were afraid of infection. Don't touch the doorknob. They couldn't see their children. The San Diego County Bar Association started a committee, volunteer committee, for those lawyers who were willing to help these people. I volunteered, and for 5 years I represented people who were HIV positive, couldn't see their children. So Margaret was always stretching the boundaries in her stand-up. She talked about sex and personal hygiene. It was always X-rated and off-color. And watch out for what happens now.
Let's go, Georgine. Let's go, Georgine.
Here's Margaret. Wait, let's turn it on. Here's Margaret. I decided that I wanted to have a high colonic. I went to LA to do it. Think what you can. It's the shits. I walked in, and this young lady says, "Can I help you?" I said, "Are all the hydrotherapists women?" And I looked. There were headshots on all the walls. This was LA. So everybody had a headshot on the wall. And Julie said, "Yes, we are. Just think of me. I'm just like your mommy." She wasn't like my mommy. So I decided to have the procedure. And I had my period. So I had a Tampax in the front and the hot colonic thing in the back. I felt like a power strip. If I had another hole, I could have gotten the internet. I had a TV show. I fucked it up so badly, it took them 20 years to try it again. They had to wait for another generation to grow up. It's called Fresh Off the Boat, and I helped produce that. Straight people are afraid of gay marriage. They don't even see us. We just shouldn't tell them. I went to New York City to see the Twin Towers Memorial, Ground Zero. I was so touched. I couldn't help myself. I gave all the first responders blowjobs. That's my time. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Mark Summers, a music-loving queer from the 20th century. I found remarkable the American composers from my era who also turned out to be queer, and I'd like to honor them tonight. Aaron Copland, whose fanfare for the common man you just heard, Samuel Barber, and Leonard Bernstein. Coincidentally, one of my very favorite singers, 5-time Grammy Award winner and first vocal artist to receive a MacArthur Genius Grant. Dawn Upshaw also admires these composers, and she has recorded material from all of them. And to assist me tonight, I'd like you to help me welcome Dawn Upshaw. Hello. It's so nice to be here at Mark's request. I have limited time, so let me briefly tell you about what these composers mean to me, and we'll hear a little snippet of my performance by each of the three of them. Born in 1900, Aaron Copland preferred to keep his personal life rather private. At one point, Leonard Bernstein, his friend and mentor, asked him if he wouldn't come out publicly. And his response was, "Oh no, I'll leave that to you, boy." So he preferred to encourage the love of American music. When I performed Laurie's song from his 1954 opera, The Tender Land, I feel a wonderful sense of Americana of the last mid-century.
Once I thought I'd never go outside this fence. This space was plenty for me. But I walked down the road one day, and just what happened I can't say. But little by little it came to me.
his fellow composer, Giancarlo Menotti, when they were both students at the Curtis Institute of Music. It was the beginning of a long and loving relationship. Menotti actually wrote 2 libretti for Barber's operas, and between them, they won 4 Pulitzer Prizes. I love this song from Barber's Antony and Cleopatra. It christened the opening of the new Metropolitan Opera in 1966. And it was first sung by my idol, the luminous Leontine Price as the Egyptian queen. Leonard Bernstein adored his wife and children. He was devastated when his wife died in 1978. But he proceeded to carry on a string of affairs with men, which only became less discreet the older he became. Arthur Lawrence, the author of West Side Story, put it simply: he was a gay man who got married. He was not conflicted about it at all. He was just gay. I knew the maestro, and there's nobody better who could have written this show-stopping number from 1956's Candide. And I would like to perform it in his honor.
I will take the diamond necklace and show my love stuff. Baby, give a necklace. Dreadful shame I
It's Dawn Upshaw. Next time you need someone to lip sync Dawn Upshaw, I am available.
I wasn't attracted to religion. Troy Perry.
The story may be old, but for me, it resonates with contemporary culture. Sebastian Lifshitz.
I'm so proud of our community. We know how to love and how to care. I wouldn't want to be anything but gay. Dominic Pash.
Love planted a rose and the world turned sweeter. Catherine Lee Bates.
Music has healing power. It has the ability to take people out of themselves for a few hours. Elton John.
Healing complete. We are love always. Maria Yespo.
Be yourself. Everyone else is taken. Oscar Wilde.
I have found out and I have believed that everybody is talented. It's just that most people don't get a chance to develop it. Stephen Sondheim.
When you open yourself up to love, you create love all around you. Margaret Cho.
A liberal is a man or a woman or child who looks to a better day, a more tranquil night, and a perfect, infinite future. Leonard Bernstein.